See if folks are joining. Excellent. Okay, welcome everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with our presentation. I see a couple more people are joining. Okay. Well, welcome to today's webinar focusing on CADFP Scholar Application Best Practices. This presentation is being recorded and will be shared on the CADFP YouTube channel this week, and we will send a link to the recording to everyone who registered. My name is Randy Butler, and I work at IIE as a program specialist with the Carnegie African Diaspora Fellowship Program. And today I'm very happy to be joined by CADFP Fellows, Professor Rosemary Eustace and Professor Moses Acquaah, who will be sharing details of their own CADFP experiences and their recommendations for creating a competitive scholar application. First, we will hear from Professor Rosemary Eustace, and then after that, we will hear from Professor Acquaah. And after Professor Acquaah presents, we will open for Q&A. Please feel free to submit your questions at any time through the Q&A box, and we will address them during the Q&A portion of our presentation. And then at the end of the presentation, I will have several reminders to share out before we end the webinar. The application for project requests will open on July 15th, 2024, and will close on September 18th, 2024. If selected, a project visit can begin as early as January 6th, 2025, and grant activity must be completed by November 30th, 2025. And then in our presentation today, we'll learn a bit more about how to create a quality and competitive scholar application. So first, I would like to welcome Dr. Rosemary Eustace. She is a full professor of nursing at Wright State University in the United States and a fellow and peer reviewer of the Carnegie African Diaspora Fellowship Program. Her teaching and research specialization and expertise are in family and community public health nursing. Her current research focuses on breast health awareness, education, and early detection, and she works primarily with a population of rural women in midlife and their significant others in Tanzania. And through this work, Dr. Eustace and her team seek to develop a multi-level breast health awareness and early detection program that will contribute towards Tanzania's community health strategies for breast cancer prevention. And I will let Dr. Eustace take over now, and she can share a bit more about her research and her fellowship experience and her advice for creating a competitive scholarship application.
So thank you so much, Randy, for this introduction and also giving me this opportunity to share my experience. So welcome everybody to the nuts and bolts of putting together a good quality scholar application. Again, my name is Rosemary Eustace, and I'm happy to be here today. Next. So I will go ahead and start a brief introduction about my experience as a CADFP Fellow. I was a fellow twice as a regular scholar applicant and also as a fellow alumni. My host institution was Muhimbili University of Health and Allied Sciences in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. And my host fellow was Associate Professor Dr. Tumaini Nyamhanga in the School of Public Health. Next. So as a MUHAS fellow, I was able to complete a project on curriculum co-development in strengthening MUHAS capacity for elective programs. In this program, we initiated a collaborative global health learning study abroad program, which we were able to send out 42 Wright State students so far, and 15 students are expected to travel to Tanzania this coming fall. This program is evolving, and this time we are adding the Wright State Department of Public Health, where master's students will be engaged as well, and also faculty. And hopefully in the future, we'll have medical students as well join in the program. We are going to be able to engage MUHAS students online with our students this fall and also on site. Next. So this was the last cohort prior the COVID pandemic. And I had 7 students that attended, and in the picture, as you can see, they are with one of the faculty members at the School of Nursing at MUHAS. Next. In addition to the projects that I also proposed for CADF, I also proposed a collaborative research project, and that is on the family health and breast cancer awareness in Bear. And in this picture, I was attending the data collection with my MUHAS team. Next. As a fellow, I was able to contribute to the CADFP alumni convening report. So if you have a chance, I would highly recommend that you take some time as you prepare your scholar application to go ahead and read this report. I was able to contribute to the mutually beneficial collaboration. And if you go on page 30, you get information on some of the practices and challenges and lessons learned that we experience as CADF scholars. Next. Recently, I contributed to the CADF as a peer reviewer for regular scholar applications, including alumni applicants. And next. So in the following slides, I will share with you some nuts and bolts of putting together a good quality application that will lend you high recommendation scores by the reviewer. I will use the CADFP criteria as the blueprint. So in the next slide, I'll go over each one of them so that you can get a perspective of what you need to have in your proposal. Next. So let us start with quality. And quality here, I mean the importance of the project that you're proposing. The quality answers your questions of why and what of the scholar application. So what is your project about? Is it about research? Is it about curriculum? Or is it about graduate student teaching, training, and mentoring? Or does it include multifaceted projects? So you can have more than one. As I mentioned earlier, from my experience, I had research and also curriculum co-development. So think about your project and what you want to achieve in your project. What is the scope of your project? What is the main goal? What are the specific objectives, primary and also secondary objectives? Are the objectives SMART, which means are they specific? Are they measurable, attainable? Are they realistic within a certain time frame? So those are questions that you need to be asking yourself. Do you have preliminary work on the proposed project? So you need to show us what are those preliminary work to support your work and show the significance and innovation of what you're proposing. Because in the long run, your project must contribute to strengthening higher education, not only at the host institution, but also at the fellow institution. Next. This brings us to win-win benefits. Just remember, when you apply, you have to indicate the win-win benefits. You don't want just wins for yourself and not wins for the institution or wins for the profession. And this has to be a two-way process. Your host institution has to benefit, and also your fellow institution has to benefit. Do you have a memorandum of understanding that's already in place? This is a plus if you have one. But don't worry, if you don't have it, what are the plans for you having a memorandum of understanding? Because that shows that you are really serious and there's a linkage between the two universities. So as you look into the MOU, ask yourself, whatever you are proposing, does it capture the institution capacity, the commitment, the experience in both ways, fellow and also the host fellow. There has to be some commitment of internalization, whether it's internalization of the curriculum, research, or graduate teaching. You have to demonstrate that in your proposal. So read the mission and vision of your institution to find those mutual benefits. Next. This is so important, the timeline, the time frame. So as you put your scholar application, make sure you look at the time frame, because we want to see that rigor of your proposal and also the feasibility of completing the project. You do not want to put project objectives that you can't attain within that time frame. Do you have time yourself as a fellow to complete the proposed project? What about the host fellow? Do they have time? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 3 weeks? Is it 90 days? So you have to ask yourself and then go back and look at your objectives and see how each objective will be completed with the time that you're proposing. Now, if your project has an ongoing status, let's say you started it before the Carnegie opportunity, indicate that in your application because it shows the timeline. And as reviewers, when we see that, we are confident that something was going on and the time that you're proposing will kind of build in whatever you already have. So again, go back and look at the scope of your work. Learn about the host's academic calendar. It's so important because if you're trying to propose, let's say, teaching project, and then you are going to teach students who are not there because they're on vacation, or the faculty is not there because they're doing other projects, the host fellow. So be careful on that and make sure you look into that. Make sure you communicate with the host institution because then you will justify the timeline as you write your proposal. Next. The fit and quality. This is so important. Are you the right scholar? Are you going to complete the right project with the right host? Do you have the expertise? Does your background match? Do you have the resources? So showcase your background, showcase your expertise, your training, and how that fits in the application to match with the host scholar and the host institution mission and vision. Do you have the leadership skills to complete that project you're proposing? And this is also part of the host institution. Do you both have the skills? Now, I'm talking about the scholar match. You already matched with the scholar, which happens most of the time, that somebody knows somebody at the university and they want to work with them. So you have to ask yourself, are you fitting? Are your goals, are your plans fitting and matching? So as you read and write your application, make sure you pay attention to that. The leadership skills can be demonstrated on your CV. So make sure you polish and also relate and reflect on the project goals and how you are meeting them with your expertise. Think about the overall impact and how you can be part of the impact. So you have to show that you're motivated to accomplish the projects that you're proposing. Next. Again, as a reviewer, we are always looking for impact. You need to demonstrate how this project will be impactful and sustainable. Why should CADFP support you on the project? Why should they care? You have to indicate progression, not stagnation. In other words, what are the goals, project activities, and actual or potential outcomes. As you look at these three major areas and whatever project that you'll be proposing, if it is curriculum, indicate what are the actual and anticipated course titles and number of the courses that you'll be looking at and how you evaluate them. How will they be developed? Will you staff the curriculum that you're proposing with staff from the host institution? And then think about the future. What if, when you are gone, who will take over? Because you want the project to be sustainable. What about the research project? The same applies to it. What are the anticipated outcomes? Are you planning to write a grant, to write publications? What about that? So indicate that in your proposal. And then also about graduate student teaching. Talk about how many students, what kind of students are you going to supervise or mentor? In what activities, dissertation, thesis, or training? So you have to really tell and showcase how the impact will look like. Next. Lastly, we want to see commitment. This is crucial. And it's not only commitment from the host institution, it's also from the fellow institution. So show that in your proposal, the support that you're getting from your fellow institution. For the host institution, you must demonstrate commitment to the host by showing that you're cost sharing for lodging, meals, and also transportation. Now, the commitment, which is the cost sharing, can be a full commitment, full cost sharing, or partial. And by partial, we mean, does the university have discounted rates for their fellows? So that shows some commitment. If there's no cost sharing, it's a red flag, unless there are other proof of support from the host institution. So think wisely when you're putting your project together. And that's why it's so important. You communicate. If you have a scholar identified, communicate early on to make sure you find out, are they going to contribute and cost share? Because that's the goal. You don't want to go there and you are staying, in different areas, trying to figure out and trying to complete your project. Next. So to sum up, I would like to just reinforce some of the things that you need to pay attention to. Common mistakes that a lot of people make that are not successful. It's having unclear support from the administrators. When you look for that reference letter, think about the support. Does it indicate the support? So make sure you communicate your needs and what you're proposing so that it's very clear between you two. Weak letters of support can indicate minimum support and commitment. So we pay attention to that. Don't put ambitious proposed project goals and activities because sometimes they can't fit into the time frame. So be very specific and very succinct. A growth mindset. Avoid a fixed mindset. And what do I mean by that? If you're just having short-term goals and not thinking about the future, it makes the reviewers wonder about sustainability. And that's so important. And lastly, just make sure there's a match, because we see a lot of mismatches between the host fellow and the fellow. So make sure you match, because your interests have to be the same. If they're not a match between the two, then there's likelihood that you won't be able to be successful with your program. So lastly, next, I'd just like to say thank you for listening, and I hope these tips will help you try to organize your scholarship. Good luck. I'm looking forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Eustace. And I'm sure everyone learned a lot from you sharing your insights on creating a competitive application. That was great to listen to. If you do have questions for Professor Eustace, please go ahead and enter them now into the Q&A box through Zoom, and we will get to that later on in the presentation. Next, I would like to welcome Dr. Moses Acquaah, who is going to be our second presenter. He is a professor and director of the PhD program in Business Administration at the Department of Management in the Bryan School of Business and Economics at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. He served as head of the Department of Management from 2015 to 2023. Dr. Acquaah received his PhD in Organizations and Strategic Management from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. He has a Master of Arts in Economics and an MBA from Simon Fraser University in Canada, a postgraduate diploma in Development Studies from the University of Cambridge in the UK, and a Bachelor of Arts in Social Science in Economics and Geography from the University of Science and Technology in Ghana. His current research focuses on strategic management, international management, sustainability, entrepreneurship, and family businesses in emerging economies. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Dr. Acquaah now to talk more about his research and specializations and Carnegie Fellowship experiences and his advice for creating a competitive application. And I believe he has his own slides he's going to share. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Professor Acquaah, do you have your slides ready to share? Right, I can see it, but I think you might be muted. Yeah, you're muted. There you go.
So thank you so much, Randy, for this opportunity to share my experience with others that want to, apply to this program. And I also want to thank, everyone at, IIE. And I gambled with this presentation because I knew that with Professor Eustace going first, he's going to talk about a lot of things that I do not want to repeat. And so my presentation is a very short 3 slides presentation, and I'll try as much as possible not to repeat a lot of the things that Professor Eustace said. And so I'll start. I was a fellow twice at Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Ghana in 2018 and 2021. Now, my fellowship was a cohort fellowship. Now, you can see that there's a difference between a regular fellowship and a cohort fellowship. It's a cohort fellowship because I came together with a colleague of mine who was also interested in the same thing that we wanted to do at one institution. We wanted to cover the whole area of business, not only one area. As I'm a strategic management person, broadly a management person. And this gentleman was also an information systems, a supply chain, and also has a background in finance. So we decided to do a complete, a project that covers all the areas of business, And we were really happy that, so I went as a cohort fellow in 2018, and also as an alumni, but also still a cohort fellow in 2021. The project that we did was focused on graduate student teaching and mentoring, and also research collaboration with graduate students and faculty. And as Professor Eustace said, there are 3 areas. You can select 1, you can select 2, you can select 3. We decided to do 3 because of the opportunity to cover a lot of things. And some of the activities that we did at the host institution, including, and I taught 2 PhD seminars. I also organized 2 PhD workshops on writing for publication and writing thesis. So we tried as much as possible, not only to focus on the students alone, but also to focus on the faculty as well. You remember that Professor Eustace talked about the idea of sustainability. So we are very focused on the fact that if we go there, we want to do something that could be carried on by the faculty there when we leave. And so we did workshops not only for the students, but also for the faculty. And then we also tried mentoring the faculty on how to supervise PhD thesis, because this was an institution that started a PhD program not long ago. And so they needed to understand how to go about doing all this. I would say that my experience at the host institution was really wonderful, because they were really, prepared. They provided all the necessary support. And that is also one of the issues that Professor Eustace talked about, commitment of the institution. It plays a very important role in the success of this kind of projects. The students were so much appreciative of what we did. And even as today, I'm still doing some research work with some of the students I taught when I went there in 2018. They've already finished their PhD. We're still working together. And I'm still working together also with some faculty over there. So this is my experience. Now, I would say that I've also been a reviewer of applications since 2022. Now, let me talk a little bit about the peer review process. I think, before I joined the peer review team, I didn't know how comprehensive the review process is. And, when we look at the application, we look at almost everything. And so as you prepare your application, do not minimize any part of the requirement for the application, because we are going to look at every single thing on the application. It is a really comprehensive review of the application. And so it's very important for you to take your time to really prepare a very good application. Now, I want to talk about personally what I look out for. And I think Professor Eustace talked about the criteria that CADFP has put together. So they have a criteria, okay? And there are 5 of them. I do not minimize any of the criteria, but I personally put a lot of weight on these 4 criteria: the quality of the proposed project. And I think it is very important that you demonstrate that the project that you are going to do is very important. It is going to help not only the institution, but it's also going to help you as a scholar and even bring together your institution and the host institution. And I focus on the quality. I will give you examples of some of the things I've seen. I think doing that helps you a lot. Sometimes some people write projects of curriculum co-development, and all they do is they are going to develop one course for the institution. I mean, I see this as a very weak application, because developing one course is really not something that you need to go spend time, go to the host institution, and then do it. You can actually do it without going there. And so those things really send something like I call red flags to me as a reviewer when I'm looking at that. I'm always interested in developing what we call curriculum. A curriculum means interested in a program. If the institution is starting a new program and you are going to be there to help the institution develop the curriculum for the program, yes, I see that as a quality one. If you are also going to teach a course, and I think The teaching also involves the curricular development. That also strengthens your application, because then you are going to develop something that you are going to also teach, and even probably teach with some faculty there, so that when you leave, there will be somebody there to take over. So the quality of the proposed projects, very, very important. Then the potential impact and sustainability of the project. You know, I always believe that when we do something, the impact must be visible, and the impact to the institution and the impact to you, even as a scholar and your institution, is also very, very important of it. And we'll talk about short-term impact and longer-term impact. Both are important. And then also be able to demonstrate how the project will continue to exist in your absence. You know, some scholars indicate that they will continue to engage with their host institution so that they are able to help the host institution continue with it. But even beyond that, you know, none of us will be able to engage with our host institutions forever. And so there is the need for us to demonstrate, for you to demonstrate that if you are not there, there is somebody there, or there are ways for the institution to continue to really continue with the project that you started. The third one is the fit and the quality of the proposed scholar match. And this is also something that I've seen, and I think Professor Eustace talked about it when he was talking about the common mistakes. She talked about it. I have seen people propose projects in which they want a scholar who has no expertise or experience in that area. You know, and I'll give you an example. You know, somebody, if you propose a project and you say, you know, I'm going to help, you know, develop cases that could be used in the classroom, in the institution. And of course, in my field of business, case studies are very important because we want the students to see what is happening in the real world. And you have never developed a case. You've not written a case before. I mean, I don't know how you can convince me as a reviewer to believe that you'll be able to do that job. And that is also important. I've seen people propose, you know, a teaching project in the area of entrepreneurship, and they want a scholar who has no entrepreneurship background. That is also a question that you have to ask yourself. Is this something that the scholar is going to be able to do? And if the scholar is not there, is it going to be sustainable? And so it is always important to think about what you want to do and what your host institution wants to do, and make sure that they are doing something that you have the expertise to go there and help them. That is the important thing. You have the expertise to go there and help them. And then the demonstration of commitment from the host. It is also important, because if the host is not committed to supporting what you are coming to do, I'm not sure it is going to be successful. You know, you will do all your best, but that project is going to be left hanging when you leave. And so I really want to see that the host is willing to commit to the project by supporting you as a scholar when you are there. You know, and as Professor Eustace said, I'm not expecting a full what we say, a full 100%, you know, cost sharing. That is the commitment part, but at least some level of commitment that demonstrates that they are serious about the project and they really want the support for the project. And so these are some of the things I look at. I'm not minimizing, as you can see, the time. And I'll talk about it later because time is also important, and I'll talk about it. Some of the common mistakes that I've seen, and I've given examples as I'm talking about, you know, what I'm expecting in the review process. But some of the common mistakes is lack of detailed project proposal. In other words, you send an application and you just said, oh, I just want to go and get and teach graduate students and mentor them, and you do not provide details. How are you going to teach? What are you going to teach? What is the challenge that the school is facing that you being there will be beneficial to the institution? How is it going to help students? I think you need to be a little bit detailed about your project proposal, because the more detail you provide, the quality also enhances. So it's very important to think about detail. The second one is also lack of detailed personal statement. And I think it is very important that the application is going to ask you to tell a story about yourself and why you want to undertake this project. And I will encourage you to tell a story about yourself that is detailed. Fill all the pages with relevant information that will help people to see how serious you are, how interested you are in going to do the project, and how qualified you are for the project. So the lack of detailed personal statement is also one of the red flags that usually prevents somebody like me from recommending your proposal. Of course, I've said the lack of fit between the scholar's expertise or experience and what the project is all about. This is, to me, this is number one. If you are going to take a project, you must be, you have some experience or some expertise in that area to have a successful project. And if you don't do that, then that is definitely going to be at your disadvantage. And so I see this as a very important aspect of the proposal. These are common mistakes. Make sure you don't. And also, it sometimes comes from the institution as well. But I'm not going to talk about what the institution does. Now, what are some of the suggestions I will give you in writing a competitive proposal? And as you can see, all the proposals fit into three areas: curriculum co-development, research collaboration, and or graduate teaching and mentoring. And as Professor Eustace said, you can decide to focus on only one area, 2 areas, or all the 3, depending on whether you'll be able to do it within the time frame or not. But it is up to you to decide what you want to do. You have to be, because of that, you have to be creative in your project choice. If you just say, I'm just going to teach graduate students and mentor them, or everybody will write the same thing, you need to be able to bring some creativity into what you are going to do. Although it may be curriculum co-development, maybe it may be research collaboration, it may be a graduate teaching. So it is important to do that to really distinguish yourself from other applications, because without that, all the applications will look the same, and it becomes difficult for you to get the opportunity for your application or your proposal to be selected. You must demonstrate the need for such a project in the selected institution. So if you are going to, for example, engage in graduate teaching and mentoring, and you said, oh, I'm going to teach, and I'm not in the physical sciences, but I'm going to use health sciences. I'm going to teach nursing practice at the institution. And there are so many people there who have expertise in nursing practice and can teach it. You are not going to get it. You must be able to select something that the school does not have expertise in, that you can go and help the school. And in the process, even help some faculty members to start developing some expertise in the area so that they can take over when you are not there. So it is very important to demonstrate a need for such a thing. I've seen applications in which some people say, I want to go and teach graduate students, and it's in the area of, let's say, economics, and they are going to teach macroeconomics or industrial economics. And I go back to the school and I look at their website and I look at the expertise of the faculty, and I can see several of them with expertise in macroeconomics. And then I ask myself, If there are so many people who can teach macroeconomics, why do we need another scholar going there to teach macroeconomics? So definitely take your time and do some of this homework yourself and make sure that you demonstrate need for the project. Because somebody like me, if I'm reviewing your application, I'm going to that school's website, if it's available, to see what is happening, you know, so that I can understand their needs and why they want somebody like you. Yeah, you also have to provide details about the project activities, you know, and how you will be involved as a scholar. You know, what kind of activities, be clear. At least you must state, I mean, to me, I'm looking at 3 to 5 activities that you are going to engage in. And then within the activities, what is your role? What are you going to do? Who is going to do what? You know, I know that there is always a host scholar who is inviting you. So you have to work with the host scholar to think about your role and the host scholar's role in the project so that we understand. And so I will encourage you to think seriously about that. You have to be very clear about the impact of the activities, you know, the activity and its impact, both in the short term and long term for the host institution and for you as a scholar, and sometimes even for your institution. I think it's very important for you to be able to do that. I mentioned the fit of the scholar to the proposed project, and that is important, always important. And I think both of us have stressed this so that I'm not going to go. You must be able to also complete the project within the time frame you have selected. And this is also important. Sometimes some people provide projects and they tell us they are going to spend 30 days in doing the project. And when you reach the project and activities, it is impossible to get it done in 30 days. Some people also will propose 90 days. And then when you look at the activities, you can see that this is something that could be done in 2 weeks, but they're asking for 90 days. And so those are all issues that you need to make sure. And I think Professor Eustace made this point. If you can tell us in the application what you will do for the period that you are going to be there and what is going to be taken into account, that will help you a lot in doing that. And then sustainability. And I always say sustainability, very, very important to me. And I think to CADFP, we don't want to be going to do the same thing over and over and over again. We want it once and somebody can be able to do it. So sustainability after your visit, and then also, as we said, commitment and the recommendation. Now, the recommendation letter from the host institution is very important. And I've seen a lot of them rehash the same thing that the scholar has said in terms of the scholar's background. That is not what a recommendation is. A recommendation is being able to demonstrate that the institution will need support in some area. The scholar coming has the expertise and is going to help them to be able to accomplish that project activity. That is, I mean, so the recommendation from the institution also is very, very important, and it's something that you need to consider carefully. This is the end of my presentation. I hope that you've enjoyed this presentation, and at the same time, you can see the similarity between what I've just said and what Professor Eustace said. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Acquaah. I have learned so much from both you and Professor Eustace today listening to your presentations, and so I know it's been really beneficial to our attendees here. I would like to open it up now for question and answer. We have about 10 minutes to answer your questions. So if you haven't submitted a question yet, you can go ahead and do that in the Q&A box within Zoom. We did get one question earlier that was directed towards Professor Eustace, and I know that she answered it in the chat already, but I thought maybe Professor Eustace, you could give a little bit more information and advice on the section about the preliminary work and what that means, especially for first-time applicants. So people who've never submitted an application before, what should they be putting into that section, the preliminary work?
Thank you so much, Randy, for that question, and also for, I think, Dr. Msengi, who sent that question. By preliminary work, I refer to as prior work on the project that you want to propose. It's so important, and this will indicate the motive, the drive. Look at your trajectory, your program of research, your program of teaching, your program of service, because those drive your interests. Personally, I was interested in sending students abroad. So that was one of the projects I wanted to do. And I was thinking, how can I do it? So I started doing some preliminary work, looking at the literature, calling, working with the local, the host fellow institution, learning about what they have, started writing, different research articles. So we did some things before. So if you have that connection prior to your application, it adds more value to your proposal and showing that indeed, if you are supported, you can add something to this process. So look at your CV, look at your interests. What have you done? How have you involved the host scholar or the institution? It doesn't need to be really the host scholar, but with the institution, showing that internalization. Are you passionate about it? So I hope that helps for those who are putting their package together, because it's so critical. We look at that as we review, and it adds more value and also recommendation of a high score.
Thank you. And again,
yeah, so let me also add to that, because I think I didn't mention anything about that, but I think it is always important if you are interested in a project with any institution. I think you have to start early and do some work with some people there. I mean, I think engaging with the institution even before you start the project is very, very helpful. And as a reviewer, when we are looking at this, we see somebody who is already engaged with the institution in some capacity. We can see how the project will be successful because they can work together. If you have not engaged with them at all, then sometimes there is the question as to if you go there, how are you going to be able to work with people over there? So very similar to what the point was Professor Eustace was making.
Thank you. We do have a question here asking about if it's possible to insert a link to additional documents because this person wants to add a Gantt chart and further details of the project activities. So we do know that space on in the application form is limited. There's word limits and page limits, and there are space for you to upload. There is space for you to upload supporting documents, but not links to outside documentation. So Professor Acquaah and Professor Eustace, what would you recommend for this person who's wanting to add further details about the project activity, but we're not able to take links to outside resources beyond the application? What would you recommend they do?
Okay. Yeah, so let me try and take it first. I would say that based on my experience as a scholar and writing the application proposal, I think the space that is usually provided for you to describe your project is enough. In fact, I mean, it's enough for you to be able to provide quality, detailed proposal. But if you still believe that you have so many things that you need to provide, I think you need to be able to think about those that will be more relevant to the project proposal and to your application. So there's no need for you to provide everything, but you just have to find a way to say, I think I've engaged in this project. This project is more relevant to what I'm probably going to do, and I want to show that. And then leave other things that you believe are not critical. Space, I mean, and when I started reviewing, that's when I realized how challenging it is for reviewers. You know, when the document comes, when you are doing it, you think the spaces are not enough. But when you are reviewing it, that's when you realize that, oh, I have a document which is an application document, which is almost 30 pages per person to go through, because you are not going through only what the person has written. You are going through what the host institution has written. You are going through the CVs. So many things. And so I would say that, you know, just try your best and be very brief but detailed.
Thank you. Professor Eustace, anything to add?
Yes, and to add to that, thank you, Professor Acquaah. I would just like to give an example. One of the objectives that we had with my first application was to do a needs assessment, like a 360-degree needs assessment for international programs at MUHAS. So we ended up, when I was writing my proposal, I kind of had to put in a grant chart in bullet points. So very specific, like we will do, you know, a needs assessment for 3 weeks or 1 week. And this is what we will do. So that shows the timeline. It also includes the goals. It includes also who will be involved just by bullet point. As Professor Acquaah said, then the space is enough. You just need to learn how to be very succinct in your writing. It's just like thinking for those who have applied for federal funding like NIH, where you have to write specific aims in 1 page. So how do you write that? So they're very clear and you have everything included.
Thank you. So a final question and time for you, for both of you, Professors Eustace and Acquaah, to share, you know, your parting thoughts, is when thinking of all of the applications that you have reviewed and the ones that you've assigned highly recommend to, can you think of, you know, something that is a common theme or a common piece that you see in all of these scholar applications among all of the highest recommended applications? What's something that those strongest highly recommend applications, what are you seeing in each scholar application that maybe you could leave as a parting top key piece of advice for applicants?
I can say that for those that are highly recommended, first of all, is the quality of the project itself. Well written, very clear. And as again, I mentioned earlier, very succinct, showing the commitment of both institutions. There has to be both, not only one. And also an ongoing relationship. That's why for me, I value that MOU. And I'm not saying this literally because it was something I had to go through to maintain. As you all know, it takes time to build these relationships. So showing that you have those relationships that are very strong is so important and will put you up the scale to compete. It won't be that partial, like you have, you know, your proposal is really nice. So commitment, relationship between the scholar and the host scholar.
Thank you.
Okay, from my perspective, I think all the applications I have provided highly recommended applications that actually, you know, there are 5 criteria, and I think Professor Eustace did a very good job of going through the 5 criteria. They've done a very good job of really providing enough information on the 5 criteria that allows me to be able to say, yes, this is something that is good. But I will always say,
Oh no, what a cliffhanger. I think his internet just went out.
institution, you know,
Professor Acquaah, can you start over? I think your connection's cutting out. You can turn off your video if you think that will help with your connection.
yes, let me try and see whether I can turn off my video, because I've been having that challenge all day. So.
Yeah. All right, we can hear you. Do you want to, you can go back to what your piece of advice is.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that it is important to address all the 5 criteria that CADFP requires. But I also, as I said, we want to see, number one, the quality of the project and the need. Because if you are proposing something that the institution has people that could do it, I don't see why I have to give you that highly recommended. The second one is also the expertise of the person. And that is the expertise of the scholar and the fit with the project proposal. It's very, very important to me. And also, I will always say the commitment of the host institution. Because having been at a place where I see commitment working, and then also having been at the Carnegie Africa, our convening in Washington, D.C., and listening to colleagues when I finished my second, and talking about how some of them do not, when they didn't get the registry commitment, the work became challenging for them. So I see commitment from the host institution as important, the quality of the proposal, and also the expertise and match of the scholar with the proposed project.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we are just about at our end point. On this slide here is our contact information. Please feel free to reach out with any questions about the program. Again, the application for project requests will open July 15th, 2024, and will close on September 18th, 2024. And we are hosting another webinar tomorrow focusing on best practices for submitting a competitive project request, as well as 2 application walkthrough webinars. One will be focused on project requests and one's focused on the scholar applications. That will be coming in the coming weeks. So please visit our Facebook page and our LinkedIn page for registration links for those presentations. Again, please contact us with any additional questions. I would like to give a very big thank you to Professor Acquaah and Professor Eustace for their time today. Thank you for joining us and sharing your expertise. We really appreciate you being here to speak with applicants, and very much appreciate your time and expertise shared today. Thank you, everyone, for joining our presentation today. And again, we hope to hear from you if you do have questions. Bye.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.